Hey folks, and welcome to Subjective Thoughts. And our comic for today is Cloaked Issue 1 by Dark Horse Comics. Now there is murder, violence, child endangerment, drugs, cheating, more violence, and, more murder in this one. So if you are in any way squeamish, you have been warned. Also, spoilers. Alright, so here are the names of the team. I don't recognize anyone from here. At least I don't know if I've read the writers' any of the stories before. The name Mike Richardson sounds familiar, but it could be from something else. Alright, so now I bought this issue last year. I don't even remember when. I have to go back to my holes to find out. And I can't remember what the summary was that got me to buy this even. But anyway, finally I've got to it and read it. So this is... this is a good way to summarize this, maybe to say that imagine if Batman was more realistic a little bit and was a complete heartless asshole, essentially. Now, this, I think, is supposed to be a parody of Batman? I'm not sure, though. I mean, okay, maybe not a parody. A parody is usually supposed to be a funny thing, right? It's just... let's get to the description of what happens first. And we'll go back to this. Alright, so... we have this detective, his name is, I'll tell it later. He prefers to be called Jake, but, come on. There's his name. Come on. Okay, his name is, Rogers Jake Stevens. Okay, there we go. Stevens, we'll just call him, we'll call him Jake. Right, so before that, the story begins with saying 25 years ago, true superhero appeared out of nowhere and started fighting crime. It shows us a scene where there's a hostage situation at a bank. The police are preparing to go in. The robbers are threatening to kill a hostage. And if their demands aren't answered, then every half hour after that, they'll kill another hostage. So just as the police is about to, one of the robbers says that, a car drives right in, passing the police cars and everything, knocking into them and straight into the bank. And this guy, referred to as the name that stuck to it most as the Reaper, shoots and kills all of the robbers. And then just leaves the scene. And then we have a description of, suddenly he appeared and he was cleaning crime, just straight up murdering all the lawbreakers and everything. Just like that. Saving people, all that shit. Even had a sidekick, Wonder Boy. This kid here. And then suddenly he disappeared. And it's been 25 years since then. And we get to Mr. Jake. Roger Jake Stevens. So he's been invited to the house of a billionaire called Byron West. And fuck me if at that moment I didn't immediately think, Bruce Wayne. I don't know, am I crazy? There's so many similarities. A crime fighter, it's essentially Batman had murderous tendencies, I think. So shit even has his own Alfred. Okay, I might be exaggerating, but okay. Jake arrives at his house. Jake is this private eye detective. So he arrives at his house, he's met by not Alfred, but very much resembling Alfred. Maybe not look-wise. And then he sits and waits for Mr. West to arrive, looking at pictures of him with meeting famous people. Anyway, they sit down in his study, and then Mr. West begins to tell him about his life. He found out essentially all the information you can about poor old Jake, like how his dad was murdered on a call. It was called. It was a cop. It was called to check a domestic abuse call, and was shot and killed. And then his mom moved him to New York. They lived somewhere else before that. Baltimore? Maybe it was Baltimore. And, well, later he followed in his father's footsteps and also became a cop. But the methods he used often broke the law, and so he was released from the force and became a private eye. He also lives with his girlfriend, who's 10 years younger than him. Oh, wait, before that. So essentially, Mr. West even offends him by saying, an unremarkable description of an unremarkable life. Obviously, this pisses Jake off, and he says, thanks for not putting my sex life in the file. And then he also talks about sex life. So as I said, he lives with his girlfriend in the house she inherited from her mom, and she's 10 years younger than him. I'm not sure how old Jake is. He might be in his early 30s, perhaps. Something like that, maybe. Maybe mid-30s. Hard to tell. For some reason, he kind of reminds me of Sam from Supernatural. Just the hairdo, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he doesn't have a hairdo like that. I never watched Supernatural. I've seen the images of the actors. Right. Anyway, back to the point. So Jake says, so why did you invite me here then? And then Mr. West pulls out articles from the paper about the Reaper. And tells him, I want to give you a job. I want you to find out who the Reaper is. And Jay gets up and he says, you're crazy. So many, detectives, private eyes. Everyone tried to find who he is and where he is and why he disappeared. I'm not going, I'm not doing this. This is crazy. You're crazy. He's about to get up and leave. But then Mr. West, smiling in a really creepy manner, tells him, offers him a lot of cash. He'll pay him $25,000 in advance, dollars in advance for taking the job, and then expenses, and at the end, he'll get $100,000 if he succeeds in finding out who the Reaper is. So Jake says, well, it might be a fool's errand, but for that kind of money, I'm your fool. And they shake on it. And Mr. West says, well, I have to leave you now. My butler, whose name I already forgot, said we'll give you the money. Oh, he also tells him about what kind of car he used to have. He used to have a Jeep, now he has a different one. Now, at that moment, I'm sure you might be thinking as well, because as he says, Jake is, like a low private eye. He spends his time following cheating spouses, loose wives and cheating husbands, as he says. So you're probably wondering, why would a man like Mr. West, who obviously has a shit ton of resources, and managed to find all this information about old Jakey, why does he want to hire him if he can essentially get a whole team to look for the Reaper? At that moment, I was like, I know why. He's trying, I'm pretty certain he's the Reaper. I mean, it has to be, right? And this is supposed to follow Batman. I think he wants Jake to be the next Reaper. Something must have happened that made him disappear, stop being the Reaper, and now he wants to find a new Reaper to take his place. At least that's what I think he wants. This whole finding the Reaper is a test, I think, to see if he's good enough. Because he does tell him, no, you have remarkable detective skills. So yeah, that's what I think. That's why he wants him to. That's why he's hiring him, so he can get himself a replacement, a new Reaper. I mean, what else could it be? You know, logically, if he has all this money and let's say you wanted Jake killed or something, I think he can just easily do it, right? So I think that is his agenda. Anyway, Jake leaves, and he goes back to the police station where he worked. And he asks an old detective, a detective lady, who, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Jake also cheated on his girlfriend 2 years ago with someone from the force. I think it might be the detective lady we see. Their name's not mentioned, so I don't even know. But yes, Jake asks her for a favor. He says, you know, I gave you that tip one time, a while back, so I want a favor. I want all the files you have on... now, apparently it's known who's Wonder Boy. They know who he is, and he knows that back then, she worked on the case. They're even going to soon make a statue of the Reaper. Oh, I forgot to mention that in the beginning when we have this montage, there's even a Jim Gordon, because the Reaper worked with the Commissioner. Like, holy shit. This must be Batman. Yeah, it's another thing, like, why would the police work with him? Because he straight up murders people. I mean, just goes and shoots them. So why would the Commissioner work with him even? And they're like, oh well, we'll just let this one murder. At least he'll murder all the bad guys. Saves us room in prison. I don't know. Yeah. So this detective lady, she worked on it, and so she agrees to help him one last time. And she tells him, you know, after that, leave me alone, because I'm retiring soon, and I don't want you to fuck it up for me. So she goes, and she brings him her files, telling him to return them after he's done. And she even gives him a present. She gives him a hint. Not a hint, she writes him the address of where Wonder Boy, who's obviously now an adult, lives. And she gives him also, I don't know, the name, I think, and contact of someone else he can talk to. I think someone in the force who witnessed something interesting. And she says, well, that's it, you know, Jake, now the quid pro quo. Now leave me alone and never come back here. So the next day, Jake goes to visit Wonder Boy. He lives in this hotel that rents rooms. It's a pretty shitty looking place. He knocks on the door saying he's a cop. He wants to ask some questions. Wonder Boy, his name is, what was it? Dickie Johnson. I was like, wait, that must be Dick Grayson, right? Dick Johnson. It's like, yeah, probably. But then he shows him Franklin, the $100 bill, and Dickie lets him in. And, well, then he asks, I've never been offered, you know, paid by a cop to do an interview. Dick tells him, I used to be a cop, I'm not anymore. You know, would you tell me about the Reaper? So Dickie says that essentially he was just for show. That one time, the first time he met the Reaper, he was in a car without the costume and offered him $20 to go on a ride with him. And so that's how it started. He would pick him up in predetermined locations, pay him $20 each time to ride with him in the car. And Dickie says, you know, that was all just a facade, like a curtain. And and Dickie has been, because he's done many interviews in the past about their adventures, and he admits to Jake that he lied about a lot of them. A lot of the stuff he told never happened. He just made it into a pretty fairy tale. But then he tells him about his first real mission, first adventure, as he says, with the Reaper. So they go to this dock, And the Reaper tells him to go inside through a door. And so he does. He says, I was scared shitless. I didn't know what to do, but I was already wearing the costume, and I was already there. So I went. Heroes don't die, right? Although you can't really call the Reaper a hero, can you? Vigilante, sure. Hero, definitely not. So he goes in, and these bad guys, they're loading up something. Possibly drugs, I think. Although maybe not. Up into crates, and they see him, and at first they start laughing. Is that kid in his pajamas? Because he's just standing there. Obviously, unlike good old Batsy, he didn't prepare poor old Dickie to any of this. But then the boss, Dickie thinks that was the boss. He tells him, to shoot him. He's seen us. We can't have any eyewitnesses. So one of them pulls out a gun, about to shoot Dickie in the face. Dickie even admits to pissing himself. And you can understand that was a very terrifying situation. But then the Reaper bursts through the window in the ceiling with the, but he's hooked to something, so he doesn't, unlike Batsy. And then he fucking guns down all of them, just like that. Dickie says it was over in a minute. That's it, just guns them down. Doesn't even check to see if poor Dickie's okay or not. And then Dickie said he doesn't know what was there, but it was worth a lot of money because they find the whole suitcase. And then he says we just left them there lying dead. And the Reaper took the suitcase with cash and said it was for charity. I think we know how Mr. West made his money. Or maybe not, who knows. Well, he says, I was a kid, I believed him. Why wouldn't I believe him? There we go back to, he says that this reporter lady made an article. I guess someone has seen him going in with the Reaper. And so the reporter lady released his name to the news. She made a series of video essays about it. What? I don't remember. Or articles, maybe. And so for a while, his parents are obviously terrified of the whole situation and did their best to protect him from the reporters. And he was terrified as well and didn't talk for weeks. because the Reaper told him if he ever revealed his secret identity, then he would, then bad men would come and kill his family and him. But then Dickie grew up a bit and he needed money. And so he started talking on all these talk shows and started making up things, and he said the bad guys never came. I think that the Reaper is the one who tipped off the reporter. Because Dickie says, I never knew how she found out who I was. She never revealed her source. So I think it was the Reaper. I think he sent her that information because Dickie was no longer useful to him. Maybe that was just around the time where he, was about to disappear. Maybe he knew he would. Or maybe it was after. I don't know. I think he orchestrated the whole thing. Anyway, Dickie says, well, your $100 are up. I'm gonna go, and Jake's like, wait, I'll pay for more time. And he said, I don't need the money that badly, and I want to go to the happy hour at this club called the Steels. Steels? Steel, I think. And Jake's like, well, I'll go with you. I'll pay for the drinks. And Dickie's like, well, now you're talking. So they go, and then we're several hours later, we see Jake returning home. His girlfriend is awake. I would say it's probably maybe, midnight, maybe later. Holding up her cell phone, telling him, where have you been? I've been trying to call you. And he says, you're up. And Jake says, Gala has been calling. has been calling me to try to reach you. His cell phone died, so that's why he didn't hear any phone calls. And he couldn't get any. Gala is, I take it, the one he cheated with 2 years ago. And I wonder if it's the detective lady. Because, again, her name's not mentioned, but it could be her. Well, she gives him her cell phone, tells him to call back Gala. I think it's Gala, because it's G-A-L-E. Gale. Fuck it. Gala. And after he finishes his call, to sleep on the couch. She doesn't want him in her bedroom. And so he sits down and calls Gala and says, it's pretty late. What's up? And she said, were you at the Steel Bar with Dickie Johnson? And he says, yeah, are you following me? And she said, nah, I saw through your credit card because you paid with the credit card. And then she asks, when did you leave Dickie Johnson? And he says, well, like an hour ago, probably. And I asked, why are you grilling me? And she says, because an hour ago, Dickie Johnson was killed, shot to death near the club. And that's it, to be continued. So that's our story. I'm thinking that maybe Mr. West is the one who got Dickie killed. Maybe to complicate things for Jake, perhaps? Because again, he's probably the Reaper, so he knows where Jake is as well. And he obviously didn't give a shit about poor old Dickie. I mean, if he did, he'd probably, at least give him some of that nice moolah so he can buy himself a house or an apartment or something. Yeah, I think he's the one who killed him. Now, that does leave the question if if Jake is going to be arrested next time. If he's going to be arrested because of this, if he's suspected for murder. That is, in fact, Gala, the detective lady. If she is the detective lady. Alright, let's get to the art before we continue. The cover's okay, but I don't like the art style. It makes the faces look fucking awful. Oh, wait, sorry. No, this scene is kind of nice, though, but when you get to faces and stuff, I don't like it. It's well done, don't get me wrong, but I don't really like this art style too much. Not my favorite, I would say. There we go. You see, he's holding a hostage, and there's this car. This is before he was with Dickie. There you go. You see, he just straight up shoots them. A bullet for you, and a bullet for you, and a bullet for you. There we go. Look even in the emblem on his costume. Doesn't that look like the bat symbol would fit right in here? And you see, he just fucks off. And then vigilante justice. And there we go. So that's the art. Yeah, again, not my favorite. It's the style, but I don't like it particularly. The cover, though, is pretty good. I think maybe if it was done in black and white, it might have looked better. I don't know. Right, so now I'm confused who Jake is supposed to be. Because at first, before we got to Dickie, I assumed that maybe he was supposed to be the Dick Grayson. Because, the dad was, parent was killed. Because, and, maybe seeking justice, vengeance. But now I don't think so. If he is meant to represent any of the, people in the Bat family, perhaps Jason. Because he does prefer to be called Jake. Could be Jason Todd. I could be wrong. I don't know, maybe... I think it's so much of it just looks like it would fit into Batman. The names, everything else, that I think this is some kind of... I don't know, even a parody or a Batman ripoff. Or maybe exploring the idea of what if Batman was a moralist, murderous asshole. As again, he doesn't care about Dickie. He doesn't try to help him. And I very much think that he got him killed, essentially. But who knows? I could be completely wrong. Overall, it was a pretty good story, I guess. It wasn't too bad. I didn't find myself bored, but I'm also not intrigued enough to particularly continue reading it. I don't like the art. The story's not bad, but I don't know. Maybe in the future, if the trade paperback exists, I might pick it up, but it didn't pique my curiosity enough for that. But if you like some vigilante stories with a lot of violence, I think you'd like this. So yeah, that's it. I think that's all I wanted to say about it. Um, I would recommend if you want to pick this up to, if a trade does exist, to pick up a trade, because it's only 4 parts, and I think you might as well read the full story, and not bother with the parts. There must be a trade by now, because like I said, I bought this last year, so it could be already out by now. I don't know what cloaked means, for the title, that is. Alright, so yes, if you like, vigilantes, some murder, some detective work, I think you'll enjoy this one. If you prefer your Batman as a heartless asshole, I think you'll enjoy this one as well. Maybe not heartless, maybe as a prick. Yeah. I think you'll enjoy this one. See, even has the utility belt. Alright, so that is it, folks. Let me know what you thought of this one. Have you read it? Have you even heard about it? And that is it. Remember, collect what you're passionate about and share it on YouTube. Bye!